there's a really good one, two really good ones in this poem that we'll read, that you listen to and it's like, what? But then we break it down like, oh, well, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. Okay, that makes sense. Good. So the father of really metaphysical poems, John Donne, very religious, as you see on the next couple pages, very significant and well respected theologian and preacher. Up until his dying days, his sermons would just, people would come from far away to hear them, and this was an individual, because we called him a radical because of the metaphysical poem. But this was an individual who all he had to do to graduate from Oxford was swear an oath or just say a pledge, maybe like the Pledge of Allegiance. But like how we have the line, one nation under God. If you had a problem with God or you didn't believe in God, you might not say the Pledge of Allegiance. And if that's what would keep you from graduating, okay, fine, I'm not going to go against my beliefs. That's what his beliefs were regarding the religion and such. And he wouldn't say that at Oxford. So he went through all of the schooling, but he wouldn't say that oath to the Queen because he didn't agree with the religion. And he was, ultimately that didn't affect his life too much with regards to where he ended. Maybe he would have gotten there sooner if he would have done it. I don't know. But an individual who goes against the grain and does what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. Which, as a radical, that's really the definition of one, uncompromising your beliefs. And we see that, in his life, but we also see it in the foundation of what metaphysical poetry truly is. Page 431, in the building background, I just said a little bit ago how Donne was planning a trip. His wife, Anne, had a premonition that something bad would happen while he was away. She urged him to stay home, and at first, Donne heeded her warning, but his friends eventually convinced him to go. Sensitive to his wife's suffering, he wrote the poems we're going to read, and a Valediction, the one we're going to read, is a farewell statement. Okay, it's a farewell statement that if I die, blah, 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 blah. Page 433, a Valediction. As we go through this, listening to it, the meter, the rhythm, it might seem a little choppy. There might not be the flow that we were used to with the sonnets, how it just kind of wrapped around. Okay, but remember, that's the point. The meter is going to be choppy. You should be able to understand all the words. Use footnotes as you need them, but a very simple vocabulary is what was used. For me, I've been through this thing, 40 times over the years. The first couple stanzas are okay. The third and fourth are kind of difficult to get through. But what I want you to focus on is don't get discouraged. Because the second page, flip that really quick. I want you to find those extended metaphors, those conceits. What are they comparing two things? Something to something. They do it a couple times. I want you to identify those. If you can identify those, we have succeeded. Okay? I'm not looking for you to give me a summary of this entire piece. I want you to be able to find those new literary elements that we're trying to identify. And then we will go through and discuss them. Okay? So notice the meter. Notice it will be choppy and such. Look for the conceit. Think about, wow, this, how could the intellectual be, stimulated by reading this?
A Valediction, Forbidding Mourning, by John Donne. As virtuous men pass mildly away, and whisper to their souls to go, whilst some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say, no. So let us melt, and make no noise, no tear floods nor sigh tempests move, 'twere profanation of our joys to tell the laity our love. Moving of the earth brings harms and fears, men reckon what it did and meant. But trepidation of the spheres, though greater far, is innocent. Dull sublunary lovers love, whose soul is sense, cannot admit absence because it doth remove those things which elemented it. But we, by a love so much refined, that ourselves know not what it is, enter assured of the mind, care less eyes, lips, and hands to miss. Our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat. If they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show, to move, but doth if the other do. And though it in the centre sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect as that comes home. Such wilt thou be to me, who must like the other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun.
Okay, so forbidding mourning, to mourn, to weep, to be sad, and such. Because you got to remember that building background is important. This is one of those times that, just like with the Thomas Wyatt, knowing something about him and Anne Boleyn, makes that poem, that sonnet, a little bit, stronger and more relevant. So here we understand that, I'm going to be leaving you. You've had horrible premonitions, and you guys have all had that. I got a bad feeling about this. Just something sits wrong, and you really just. You don't want that individual to go or do something. And so here he's cognizant of that. He understands that. But he is going to go. And remember the religious aspect of this regarding his feelings and his faith from his author information. So the top of the page, as virtuous men pass mildly away, so as they die away, and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say no. So let us melt and make no noise. No tear floods nor sigh tempests move, to a profanation of our joys, to tell the lady our love. So some people, virtuous men, as they pass away and whisper for their souls to go, fine, fine, fine. But line 5, let us melt, let us go apart, let us leave, and make no noise. No tear floods, no, don't cry about it. Because you're crying about something might happen to me. But here's what you got to remember. If you have an individual who is extremely faith-based and know that they are going to, for this particular religion, that they're set for the afterlife. They've lived their life a certain way and they're ready to go home, you hear them say. So honey, don't cry for me. I will be back. Our love will still be strong. But if I were to die, don't worry about me. Don't cry about me. Because I'm actually home. And I'm up there. I'll be up there waiting for you. Okay, so keep that in your mind, as you get going. The next page, let's find those conceits. The last 4 stanzas. The first conceit is in the second stanza there. Our 2 souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure, not yet a breach, but an expansion like gold to airy thinness be. So our 2 souls are like gold. That seems weird. Okay, but imagine, you guys have all played with Play-Doh. Okay, you've seen blacksmiths make, pound out metal and such, and, it's a red molten glob, but as they hit it, what happens to it? It flattens out, right? And outside of your Play-Doh fracturing and breaking it, it just keeps spreading, and the thinness and such. So our 2 souls, which are one. So our 2 souls are actually one. Okay? And it's like the gold to airy thinness beat. And notice, even though I leave, and even though we're getting beaten because we're apart, are we breaking? What's happening to us? We're just spreading out. Just like geographically, I will be leaving, but we're still together. Do you see it? And that's not something you would probably write if you had what is our love like? Or what are our 2 souls like? If I gave that thing to everybody, you probably wouldn't come up like gold, beaten, spread. I mean, it's not one that someone would jump to think. And that's why it's a wonderful example of this, this type. It's out there, but yet you are able to make your argument and make your case. So relax, because our 2 souls are actually one. Okay? And even though we have an expanse, we don't break, we don't breach, we don't tear, we don't rip. We stay strong and stay together, even though we might get thinner and thinner and thinner as we get pulled away. The next stanza, so he said, our souls are one. But, if they are actually 2, they are 2 so as stiff twin compasses are 2. Thy soul, thy fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. You guys have all had math, right? Geometry? So our love, if you didn't like my previous stanza, wifey, here's your soul, and here's my soul. And notice we are connected. Okay? But as this is, sitting in paper, we're still connected to some degree. And notice the foot, the fixed point at home. As the person travels away, notice what happens. The point, it leans after, waiting for them to go, longing for them in whatever direction they go. And then when they come home, what happens to it? It stands up straight again as they come together. Okay? It comes back and forth. So if they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul is the fixed foot, and makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. So it only moves if the other one moves. And though it in the center sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect, as that comes home. Such wilt thou be to me, who must like the other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun. And so our love, your strength, wife, woman, is that fixed foot. Because if you start moving around, okay, because it's the fixed point, if you start moving around, I'm not going to be able to find my way back home. Okay, so you keep your fixed foot, and then I can, no matter where I go, as long as you're stuck in place, I will be able to come back to you. Can we see that? Do you see how you have to kind of think about it a little bit? And the demonstration obviously helps. Okay? But you see the love. You see those extended metaphors, the struggle that these that the wife had, with the husband and such. And that's why thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun. So don't feel so bad. I will come back. Our two souls are like one, like they're in this beat. But, if you don't believe that and they are two, well, then they are like this. And I rely so much on you and our connection, and I will come home, and, and we have a great relationship. Everything's great. Okay? But we do have that element towards the beginning, that calmness. Okay? That calmness, since we're out of those Anglo-Saxon eras of, there is no afterlife or anything like that. Here it's solely Christian-based for Donne, so he knows what's going to happen here, in the future and such. So, a little different, maybe a little bit more difficult to understand than your basic sonnets, but it's something that, it's meant to be more difficult. It's meant for the intellectual, and hopefully you're able to find those examples. Okay.